Woo. How has your training been going?
It's good. It's good.
Save that for the live stream, man. Jesus.
Yeah, shit.
Keep it in
Oh, so we're live, aren't we?
No, still loading.
Okay.
Oh, it says on our thing live.
No, it says we're live.
Yeah.
It says
It's
we're
live?
Yeah, it says live. It says webinar is now streaming live on YouTube. Yeah.
That is mad.
It hasn't come up on. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, fuck.
Is it live?
It says for me it is.
Okay. Before we go, how many people are going to tune into this? Guess.
Oh, I was surprised last week. So
How
You're
many
not
was on
gonna be
last week?
surprised this week because we did not announce it and it's not at the same time or the same day.
To
I'm
be
gonna
fair,
go with 6.
you didn't
13.
announce it.
Jing, 12? Less?
12.
I said 13.
Okay.
13.
How many do you
Of course you
drive?
do.
I'm gonna go. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it depends how long we go on for. If we go on for an hour plus, I'd say a high, low single digits.
Come on.
No, high single digits. That's what I think. No, no,
Nice.
I'd say just under 20 if we're going on for an hour at this time, considering we didn't announce it, and we're relying on people just happening upon it.
But
Okay.
we announced at the end of the last episode, we announced it on Monday that we'd be doing it on Thursday at 6. People had it in their head. Whereas on Thursday, we just said, we'll announce what's coming up soon. And then we didn't. And now it's Wednesday and we're live already.
Yeah.
Fair point, but how many of those do you actually think, like, remembered that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd say it was just a case of, like, it just came up on YouTube. Like, that's how I see most things.
Yeah.
Like,
Fair.
there's like, oh, this is on. I'll click on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, it could be something. Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, I suppose we'll fucking
Mhm.
kick it off. So, welcome to the Alex, Jack, and Stephen show with Alex, Jack, and Stephen. Yeah, so we are finally complete. We have Mr. Down Under, Jack Kenny, joining us today. How have you been getting on?
I'm good, yeah. I'm good. Doing okay with everything, I guess, going on. But yeah, you know, I'm alive. I'm safe, able to do some bit of training. So all considered, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good man. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, similar.
Thriving.
Alive, which is, yeah, that's the benchmark I'm setting these days.
I know it's so bleak. I'm alive.
Yeah,
Nothing else.
that's pretty solid.
It's all that matters right now.
Anything above that is a net gain.
Yeah.
I try not to achieve much more over that in case I set unrealistic standards for myself in the coming days. So I try to keep
like you have been like that for as long as I've ever known you, John. It's
yeah,
not
this
that
isn't
long, but
new. This isn't new. Like this isn't new to lockdown. Yeah, that's the bar that I've set over the course of my life.
yeah.
How's training going for you?
Yeah, training is different. Like training has changed hugely. You know, I don't have a barbell. I don't have access to any real weights. So I changed like nearly everything that I'm doing. Joe, what I'm doing now, I've never really done before. So, but like my mindset, you know, kind of hasn't changed that much. Like I'm still trying to seek some sort of growth, and like I'm still putting as much intent into training as I can. Because I feel if I didn't, then I would be so different from Joe what I was. So like I'm doing lots of like bodyweight training. I swapped from like strength being a #1 priority to kind of hypertrophy. And I'm trying to work on that and like trying to increase my work capacity, because I can actually, you know, chase those things with more intent rather than like increasing my squat max and my bench max and my deadlift max. So I'm just doing what I can to get a filthy pump and get a bit of a sweat on and after that, then it's trying to fill my day with anything else.
Yeah, and just I suppose in the logistics sense, what actual sort of like principles have you been applying to your training with the limited equipment you have? Like I've seen like you were using BFR today and yesterday sort of. So what sort of things like that have you been doing to make your training as effective as possible?
Yeah, so like I would still look at myself as a powerlifter, but I just can't powerlift right now. So the only equipment that I have is a few resistance bands, and like a few bands, a few floss bands, and like a skip rope. So like I'm trying to still do the actual movements themselves. So I'm still trying to squat, do some sort of like horizontal pressing movement, and then I'm also trying to hip hinge as well. So more often than not, the hip hinging is more kind of like stiff leg deadlifts and kind of RDLs, because like with the bands and stuff, it's like just hard to mimic an actual deadlift. So I'm just still trying to be proficient in like those actual movement patterns, but I can't chase them with intensity because I don't have 300 kilos worth of plates. So I'm still trying to do those just so I don't get rusty, and and I just like doing them too. And then besides that, then I'm just hammering like accessories. So like just different variations in push-ups, like split squats, walking lunges, things like that. And like to make them harder and like just more fun, I'm like thinking of things to make them harder. So I was chatting to Jack about it last week, and like he had thought of stuff like BFR training, so blood flow restriction. Um, um, so like that's just literally like just tying bands around the top of muscle bellies to just try and restrict blood flow, to just make them a little bit harder. And you get a filthy pump off them too, so it's not that bad. And stuff like that. I've just changed my goals, but I still have goals, and I think that's hugely important, because like right now, like this time, it's very vague. We don't know how long we're going to be here. Like so many things are uncertain, but like that's fine. Like like that's life as a normal anyway. But I think we should normalize it as much as we can. So just like reset some goals and chase them as best we can. So that's just what I'm doing. And obviously you guys are doing the same. I know like you guys are still powerlifting because you have equipment, but like a lot of things are different, but like we're all doing the same thing in kind of one sense or another.
Yeah, definitely. And like that's probably one of the biggest take-home points that people could probably take on like adapting to this, is like trying to let go of that control almost, because things are so uncertain, and just adjusting your goals towards what you can do right now, to allow you to take the most out of it. And I suppose for you, like it's, even when we were training, when you were getting ready for all those comps like last year, you were going straight from nationals into international comps and like so on and so forth. Like the comps themselves seemed reasonably arbitrary for you. It was more the process. You're like you're one of the people who really embodied sort of like living the process, and those things that we tend to talk about is like a healthy relationship with training. Like you never really seemed to be overly satisfied with competitions, because it wasn't, it was the training itself that you were chasing, which means like that it's like as long as someone's still breathing, you can't really take training away from them. So if that's what you're happy with, like you're going to be able to do something.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Because yeah, like even now, without powerlifting, like us all, like I definitely was like wallowing in my own self-pity, and I was angry and sad, and like everyone was with everything happening, because we can't see our friends. Like I know we can't literally be with each other because I'm in Australia right now. But even if we were all back in Limerick, like an awful lot of people's friends are just like a few miles away from them, but we can't, go out for long, and we can't see each other. But like, there's no point crying over it for too long. Like you can cry over it for a while, and that's probably healthy. Like that's probably healthy. But you have to just get up, dust off, and just like put on your big boy pants and get over it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not a situation like that is black or white, the way that people tend to be painting it, and that this is either a really good thing or a really bad thing. Like there's elements of both, but yeah, it is just going to be tough for people in general.
Yeah, usually.
But and apart from that, how have you been like adjusting your lifestyle and around training right now with all the changes that have happened? How have you been sort of changing your approach to it compared to where it used to be?
Yeah, so an awful lot of things I guess have changed, but an awful lot of things have stayed the same. Like I still look at training the same way, and in one way I still get as intense as I used to. I can't do that often because with the apartment I'm living in, there's like I live with my girlfriend and 3 other girls, so I can't get as intense as I used to. And that is really killing me, because I would love to, like, because these walls are thin, like I would love to give it a shot of putting my head through one of them, but I can't do that for a while, or I can't hit myself because like they're like, oh my god, what are you doing? I'm like, fucking back, bitch, give me some space. I'm trying to do a set of 10 on banded push-ups here. Like, God,
Can you see?
Yeah. And as well, then like you're in an apartment block, so then other people in the apartments across the road like can see you.
Yeah.
So like when I'm like shirtless, panting like a motherfucker, and kind of like roaring, like this 60-year-old woman from 20 yards away is looking at me.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of different.
That's something I found as well with the living in an apartment block. It is mad because I live on like the second floor, so basically I can see everyone from like the mezzanine to like all the floors above. But like there's been loads of like deadlift sessions where like I'm like getting pretty hyped to like a lot of knacker music, and then just people just staring in the window as I'm doing that, like in like tights and no top on, like.
Yeah, I love that.
That is going to leave a lasting impression.
It will, yeah. They won't knock on it. Like, hopefully they don't knock on our door anytime soon. Because I'm trying to like tempo them to the floor as well, all my sets. But like some of them are just fucking bollocks, and just like, oh shit. After the fact, you just hear this loud rattle throughout the whole building. You're like, bollocks.
That must be a like real killer, just doing loads of tempo work on like the eccentric phase.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like my hands are always basically bollocks from it, and like I found like it kind of just like I don't notice any real technical change. It just hampers how many like reps you can effectively do. Do you know? It just basically pulls down your 1 rep max. Like as you expect, like a decent amount. So you just have to kind of bear that in mind. So like say I'd be doing numbers I might have been doing 3 or 4 blocks ago, but I know that is the main difference, like that. I'm just getting worn out, especially for like sets of 8 and 10. You just get worn out with the basically twice as much time or attention, basically.
But
yeah, it's grand. It's more fucking. It's more the toughest part is on my fucking hands, like that's
yeah. Because like the actual weight itself is sort of arbitrary. Like if you have access to equipment right now, like so many conditions have changed that your 1 rep maxes and your working weights probably aren't gym setting with your regular life sort of happening. All those changes, like being on the fucking second story of an apartment block, having to tempo everything, not having like a gym atmosphere around you. It's going to strip those numbers back, but the actual numbers themselves are arbitrary. You just adjust accordingly. But how are you finding it, Alex? How are you finding adjusting to it?
No, literally just like you were saying there, it's I think the biggest one is like the atmosphere and environment anyway. I find it it's strange. I find it weird. I enjoy training on my own, but I really, really do miss just like even having that company. You know what I mean? Even like coming down to the gym, like even if you're not in the mood to talk to people, just like having your headphones on, just being like around people, still being around that like city gym vibe. You know what I mean? I think that's definitely one of the biggest things that I found anyway. It just like, you know, you can still train away and everything's fine. Like it's just there's something there that's not the same, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And it's just the people, really, you know. Yeah. But besides that, honestly, everything's going really well, because like even like you were saying, you know, training at home as opposed to like being in a gym is going to make a huge difference. More so on numbers and stuff like that, in terms of like how you're feeling and stuff. So you know, I still seem to be everything seems fine for me. Like I'm still tipping away. So like if I can look at it like that, it's like, oh, when I get back to the gym, I'll probably be even stronger then. So like, you know, just something to take away from it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, because like I think one of the things as well is like no matter how long it's going to be, whether it's like, you know, 5 months or a year before I can compete again, I don't think because of the access to equipment I have, I don't think my goals have necessarily changed. It's just getting stronger. You know what I mean? That's all it is. Just being stronger than everyone else. Yeah. So yeah, it's going all right. Just miss everyone. That's literally it.
Yeah.
And like for all this, like basically just adapting to train at home, like how have you gone about like getting yourself in the zone for training then? Does anyone want to start off with that?
I'll start.
Like even you, like how are you getting up off the couch and then getting into fucking training mode?
So like I like as Steve was saying a while ago, like I think I'd be pretty good like process driven lifter. So you know, like I want to train. You know, like I don't really feel like it's that much of a push to say I think I'll just let it slide and I'll just do it later. Like I feel like I would just be doing myself injustice by doing that, because I have a lot of goals. You know, a lot of goals that I had before this lockdown came into effect. Now they're all pushed back. You know, some are pushed back very far. Some, you know, are just pushed back a few months or whatever. But you know, even though like this isn't the most optimal training that I could be doing ever, it's the most optimal training that I could be doing right now. So like I'm gonna do it with as much like intent, and I'm gonna get as intense as I can to make sure it's as great quality of work that it can be, to put myself in a good position for when all this blows over and we can all go back to our normal lives, you know, whenever that may be. So like I just try and use whatever triggers I can use. Like I do, I guess, visualize the old days a lot. I do think of like certain situations that all of us were in. You know, like I guess in like past meets or like just training together. And sometimes I might even think of my own training. You know, I'll just think of Steve's or Alex's or Jack's, or I'll just think of moments that resonate with me. That will just make me emotional. Or I'll use physical triggers like, you know, songs by the Cranberries. Like, you know, they get me going. So I'll just blare those in my headphones and I'll just start pacing and panting, like to just get in the zone. And I find that just does it for me. Like I have to normalize it, because that's what I used to do before.
When does this all kind of take place for you? Like, do you launch into this 20 minutes beforehand before you start any exercise, or what do you do?
So like maybe a few months ago, like I'd be thinking about that stuff pretty regularly. So I would subsequently like be down in mood an awful lot, because I don't think I'd be able to give myself much of a break. Because if I finished one session, you know, at some point in the block, then I'd be thinking of like the session in like 2 days. If I had like a heavy squat single, then I just wouldn't be able to take a break from that. But like nowadays, it's just like, you know, 10 minutes before, because like these sessions aren't hard. You know, I could do them. Like I could do push-ups like right now. You know, they don't like, I don't need to get in the zone to do them. But you know, like when the time comes before the set, like I'll just play a certain music and I'll just think of what I want to think about, and then I'll just get really angry. And like before, like sometimes as well, like Joe, like we'd roar or we'd shout or we'd like hit ourselves. Joe, if you want to do that, do that. I won't, just because I just don't want to scare the people around here or them look at me all weird. But I just do those. I just do what I used to do as best I can.
Yeah.
What about the rest of you? Like, what do you when do you switch on for training, and how do you do it?
So like, I don't know if I'd be different to people, but I just like for like the past, like, I'd say like a year, I don't really think about it. It's just like something I have to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I just have to go and train. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing. I don't even know if it's because I want to half the time. Like, I don't think about if I want to or not. I'm just like, it's just like an obligation. Like, you just have to train.
Yeah, it's habitual. Like,
exactly, yeah. And I feel like I know I'd be a lot worse if I didn't train as well. So like, I think I've just kind of formed a habit of just like, waking up more or less, besides if I've got like work or like a few PTs on or something first, like it's just the first thing on my mind is training. And that's it. And then I don't think I really let anything else get into my mind until I'm done training. You know what I mean? That's just it. Like, that's what I'm set on doing. So I just go do that. And then in terms of like actually turning on before a lift, I couldn't tell you, to be honest, man. Like I usually just like make up bullshit in my head, like, like everyone's judging me and shit, and just try to prove them wrong in my own head, even though it's just, I'm just fucked up. But like, yeah, that's me.
Who do you use in your head now that you're at home? Is it your neighbor, your mom?
Everyone, yeah, no, because you can actually, like, if I'm squatting, you can see out the window, and my neighbors are looking down, and I don't really like him as well, so I'm kind of like, so I kind of be a bit louder as well.
I love the idea. Is you looking at the window? Fuck that bitch not wearing gloves.
No, literally, yeah.
She didn't even wash her hands or nothing. Why is she outside?
Yeah, it annoys me.
Definitely an unnecessary walk. Pointless.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about you, Steve?
Like, I suppose I've probably had the hardest time adjusting to training at home from the four of us just recalling training, when we're chatting. I suppose the environment is sort of a big issue for me. Just find training at home sucks balls. And then I suppose I was trying to prioritize making sure that, most of my lifters were all right and everything else before I'd sort of really settle into my own training. But then it comes to a stage where I probably just have to realize that training is, like I would tell anyone else, is a separate endeavor to everything else you do, so I have to compartmentalize it a bit better. But I suppose, we're training small things that I probably only recently have started taking into account, which have definitely made training more effective. Will be like, I am more recovered now. I'm not as tired as I would be normally during a full work day. So before, I used to have, like, one of the big things was before a session, I'd have 500 to 600 milligrams of caffeine before any session. If I had that now, like, I literally get way too jittery to train, and then I crash after about a half hour and I'm not able to train. Whereas if I just have one coffee or something, I'm fine, or even no caffeine. But habitually, I'm used to having that. So even though, like, I've sort of known that for a week or two, I will still have a pre-workout and a can of Rain or a can of Monster or a coffee. And I'll just crash after half an hour and be unable to fucking train. Like, the amount of times I've done that and then had to wait like 3 hours to go in and do a session absolutely wrecked because I was literally too tired to train because I had way too much caffeine and crashed. So accepting things like that, I just have to change things. With, like, my sleep schedule is a bit messed up. I'm going to sleep really late and consequently waking up quite late. So if I try to wait to get a certain amount of meals into me, it's pitch black by the time I go out to train, which it's just not a great thing to do. So just training earlier in the day is making it easier, And then I suppose in terms of like timelines to be tuning into training, I'm just finding if I sort of just get into, if I get into the shed and start training, I don't really need much time tune in or think before a session, because I find if I do that too much, I'll sort of end up talking myself into a circle where my training isn't as effective. Whereas if I just go through the motions of it, for now at least, I'm getting better quality work done. So yeah, as Alex was saying, it's like it's more of an obligation right now, just getting training done, because I know it's something that's like, training is something that's very important to me. Like I have sizable goals for myself within lifting, but that doesn't necessarily mean, and I enjoy the process of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every step along the way is going to be fun. And particularly once we get to a stage where most of us are right now, where you've been training for 5, 6, 7 years, someday the novelty of it's gone. So a lot of days along the way aren't necessarily going to be, on the highlights reel. They're not going to be a load of fun. So it's just a case of getting all of those days done. And I suppose the problem right now is every day is one of those days. So getting used to that is a thing. Is a thing that I've probably had difficulty with. And then probably realizing that one of the big things, I suppose, is a lot of the goals that I used to, so when I think back to who I was when I started lifting and what I wanted out of it and what I want right now, they're entirely different. But I'm an entirely different person right now. So like, say the goals I had, which were mainly competition driven and mainly driven around, proving something, having a chip on my shoulder, trying to beat all these different people. Right now, the process that I want to go through lifting, it doesn't align with that at all. So that was probably creating a bit of friction in terms of my actual training sessions. So yeah, just getting used to that and getting used to the fact that like right now, all that's important to me is actually training, and the pursuit of getting stronger for myself is just something I have to be a bit more realistic with. So yeah, just once I can sort of accept that, it becomes a lot easier to tune in for sessions, because there probably isn't as much anxiety around my performance. But yeah, so I suppose, yeah, I'm still in the process of adjusting to it. And I even find like talking to the three of you and seeing like my own lifters adjust to training is probably helping me more than it's helping anyone else. Like as a coach, you feel like you should be the one with all of the answers and you should be the one telling everyone else what to do. But this is one of those situations where, particularly with my like more driven athletes, I'm probably learning more from them and how you're all adjusting than, like, say, Alex, how you're adjusting, then I'm probably able to give in return,
Yeah, but that is the intent of that is the big intent of these kind of live stream, kind of just video on demand stuff we're doing. As far as like, say, all the stuff we're doing, like none of it is wrong or correct or like, it's just stuff we're doing. And like we were jokingly saying at the start, isn't like we're by no means like qualified in like mentality and mindset strategies and all this stuff. It's just a thing of like, this is what we're doing. We're not saying it's like right or incorrect. Like I know in my own training, like I found it similar to you, Steve, where it's how like just actually the whole lot of like I think we found it all the same at the start as far as like the first couple of weeks were like pretty challenging, like as in the primary motivation for me training for the first 2 weeks, I'd say, was out of was predominantly like because I had access to the equipment. I felt like I was obliged to use it as best I could, like, and I was delighted to be able to use it, but at the same time, like, it was a weird source of motivation. Like, it just felt it was kind of strange in that sense, but like that's what motivated me to get into sessions. But I wasn't getting the most out of the sessions that way. Like, since then, I've gotten back to basically like into more of a routine and more familiar kind of training circumstances. Like the way, like, I have a few things I do throughout the day to get me ready to train, because like training is my primary focus, like is my main focus at the minute, just because say like time wise, it's my main focus, I guess. Do you know what I mean? It takes up the most time out of my day. But I have a few things to basically get myself ready. Like basically whenever, similar to you, like my sleep schedule is like entirely out of whack, but basically I don't train until I have a few things done. I have 2 meals at least. I try and drink 2 liters of water before training as well. And then I think I found helped quite a bit was I just went to the shop. I went to Tesco and got Monster and squashies. like not because I needed the caffeine or wanted the caffeine. It's more because I just associate those so heavily with training. Just because that's what we basically have in City Gym. So I found like just having those maybe half an hour before training kind of got me into, you know, the mindset like, okay, I'm training now, like, you know, and I'm very particular about when I have those, as far as like I only really have those before training, because I'm kind of using those more as a trigger now. But more for a trigger rather than the, like in City Gym, they'd obviously be for the caffeine and the like fast carbohydrates. But at this point, like I don't really need those as much. Do you know what I mean? Like it's similar to how you were saying, like you were having 500 milligrams of caffeine. Like I'd probably be the same. Like I'd say I'd probably have 500 milligrams of caffeine in City Gym, where so like I'd say I'd operate really well off 200, 250 now. You know, like a caffeine tablet's probably more than enough, you know. But I found those like very arbitrary things have helped me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like things I definitely could do better is like building more routine, as you were saying, like as in like actually getting up at a reasonable time every day and like having consistency that way. Whereas so at the minute it's more like I live with Sarah, my girlfriend, so whenever she's basically finished work, that's when I'll typically start training, just because I can't be fucking slamming weights right beside her when she's on calls. So that's the only time wise, that's the only thing I have to adhere to, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like yeah, that was sort of going to be the next thing I was asking everyone, is like, do you have set times that you train at? Like, do you try to section a certain part of the day?
Yeah. Yeah, like I know the past like 2 or 3 weeks I've essentially just been like forcing myself to get into a routine. So like within the hour, kind of like going to sleep the same time, waking up the same time, and then like, you know, more or less training every day at the exact same time. But then like stuff comes up like this, you know, I would have normally started training like an hour or two ago, but like, you know, calling shit. What, sorry? What'd you say? Okay, that what was I saying? Yeah, yeah. So basically, I built a mad routine, so I'm kind of trying to stay in that, because like, just honestly, just trying to, because like if there's ever like a time to take advantage of that or to get into a routine, you know, it's now, because like if I can almost get into something now, then it's going to be easier to get into a different one once all this is kind of blown over. You know what I mean? I don't want to be going from like being all over the place to kind of organized then, you know. Definitely nutrition is probably one of the biggest ones as well that I've been trying to keep track of the last few weeks, because I kind of got really sloppy after like Christmas and shit, and that's where I've kind of found just a really huge benefit in terms of like how I feel in the mornings as well, like just going throughout the day, like compared to like 3 weeks ago, like I was fucking hating life, like, but you know, now I can even just like feel it straight away. Like my mood is even boosted in the mornings and stuff like that throughout the day, and I'm training better. So like, yeah, it's just nice to be in a routine. Like, it's really, yeah, I feel like it's really affecting my training well and everything else.
Yeah.
How have you been finding tracking? Basically tracking now that you've basically nothing else to do.
Oh, like, so easy.
Yeah, that's what I was finding as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just like, you know, it's just the most I have to do to, like, I think it's you're not doing as much, obviously. So it's like when you're eating, that's all you're doing. You know what I mean, in that kind of sense. So like I think you're kind of thinking about it more. Like that's what I found anyway. That I'm just like, oh yeah, I should track this right now while I'm here and I have nothing else to do. You know, in that kind of sense. So like I'm just managing to stay on top of it a lot more. And like even in terms of like, I know when I'm like working and stuff, you know, sometimes you just kind of lose track of the day. And then next thing you have to like eat like 1,000 calories like at like 10 o'clock, and you're like, I fucking hate my life. That's probably not a lot to all of you, but 1,000 calories at 10 o'clock is fucking shit crack for me. But like, yeah, so that was kind of the biggest one, that I'm actually like able to like spread it out throughout the day as well, like track properly, not just like eat a fuckload in the morning, eat like a bit in the evening, and then like a fuckload at night or something like that. You know, it's actually spread out properly. And even finding like benefits off that as well.
Did you?
What about you?
Who said that for who? What?
That was me talking
Oh
to
yeah,
you.
say. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Say, I was like, I didn't know who said it, so I didn't know the context of the question. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone just threw up a loose ball.
Yeah.
No, as far as like nutrition, like I found I've been able to track a lot easier. Obviously, because we're not going out for food anymore, so you know exactly what you're eating basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then combine that with like I'm basically eating at this point purely for performance. Like my goal at the minute is to go up in weight, go up in body weight.
Nice.
So like that's been a lot easier to do. Like now that I'm basically not moving anymore, like that I'm moving in a small. Like I'm still like probably doing kilometers in a fucking small apartment because I pay so much, but it has been significantly easier. Like it's the easiest to put on weight, and then as a result, training has been going like swimmingly as a result. But like that should be like it's just another thing to like keep myself occupied as well. It was what I find with on the nutrition side of it. Like I know Jack, you've like tracked fairly religiously the last few months. Like are you keeping it up in Australia or?
Yeah, so when I first got here, I just decided to, I guess, enjoy life a little bit. So I still tried to eat like somewhat intuitively, but I just said I just stopped tracking just so I could eat as well, like the same meals that I was making for my girlfriend. So like, we could cook dinner and I would just like eat whatever, yeah, like I like really agree with you in the sense of like trying to like normalize life and go back tracking, just because I guess it's something to do to just take up some time in the day. And even though it's kind of benign, but like just having like calorie goals and protein goals in the day to hit, it's at least something to do. And like you're in a position where it's so easy like right now, because we all can't go out. A lot of the temptations have been taken away, and so we can do it kind of easily. So I think like just why not do it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, it's like if there's any time to like take advantage of this, like if you really want it, it's now,
Yeah,
absolutely. And how have you been finding I suppose going into the next point we wanted to talk about, how have you been finding sort of a lot of the uncertainty and the like change to say goals that we would have had affecting your motivation to train? Like right now, meets are more or less like all meets are suspended until the end of the year. Gyms are currently closed, but realistically, with the uncertainty going around the place, this is probably more of an indefinite period that's going to carry on for a while, like rather than a time where most meets are sort of being put on September, October, November time. But who knows, that there mightn't be anything on this year. We don't know when the next thing will be. So how have you been finding the uncertainty around that affecting your motivation towards training?
Like for me, it was really hard at the start to kind of to take that in and deal with it, kind of like, I think like speaking for all of us, like powerlifting is a really big thing in our life. So like knowing that like we can't even just get those like little trips away to go on comps, whether we're competing or not, or like whether you are competing, like that's huge for people like us, because that is pretty much like the highlight of some of our years, like is going to comps and competing at comps and stuff. So I think that was definitely one of the biggest things. But then, like honestly, I don't really have like a pretty answer for it. I just kind of like took a step back, looked at it for what it is, and was just like, okay, just have to take it for what it is, and like I can still get stronger. I just can't compete. Like that's all I have to say to myself. You can still make progress, like just because there's not a comp coming up. That's how I look at it anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I found like this will definitely be the probably longest off season I've had. Like the longest I've had since I started competing was basically a year. But this has been like, because last time I competed was 2019, like summer. I was meant to do one in December, but then we were gone to Euros, so I ended up skipping that, and then the March camp I was planning to do was also cancelled. So I had basically two comps cancelled basically within a month out, like twice. So yeah, we did longest off season, but I think just being in the sport for a while, I know like the sport, like this is a short amount of time in the like greatest span of the sport. Like this isn't a sport where you're typically in for a year or 2 years and then that's it. So, like it's usually like I personally plan to be in the sport for like 10, 20, 30 years. Like for as long as I can lift, basically I'll be in the sport. So this is a very small blip in that, like the motivation side of it. I think similar to Jack, more kind of process driven. Like I actually just really enjoy training itself. The thing of competing, like I absolutely love competing, because at the end of the day, powerlifting is a sport. If I didn't like competing, I wouldn't powerlift. I just strength train. But yeah, like it's definitely a kick in the teeth not being able to compete and not being able to make your numbers somewhat legitimized in competition. But like everyone's, like the way I see it is everyone's in the same situation, so you can kind of take that for what it is. Like as far as goals, I've just set myself like auxiliary goals that I've been really enjoying lately. So my 2 goals are, I want to get up to around 108 to 110 kilos, like body weight.
Yeah.
In the next few months. And then I want to be really good at pull-ups. So I've been doing a lot of pull-ups the last while. Because that's something where, like at 90 kilos, I can do pull-ups like totally grand easily. Whereas how like when I was at like 103 or 105, I could do very few. So I want to be able to do like, set to 10 on pull-ups grand, like, at 100, at 108 or 110 kilos, I think that'd be pretty vision.
Yeah.
But like it is interesting because like even in the sessions where I'm fucking not arsed, I'm still looking forward to doing pull-ups after it, which is a weird, yeah, no, it's a weird kind of turnout. It's just like I know I get to do those kind of after, so it's kind of like it's definitely been helping me in the kind of half-hour sessions. But yeah, that's why I've been kind of treating it like the uncertainty of when gyms will open, like realistically, like we're probably not looking at gyms opening properly or like the country returning to normality until late this year, earliest. Like, but like I enjoy I'm training because I enjoy training. Like right now, like as in, I think that's one of the things I was saying at the start, where I felt like I was kind of obliged to train, and now I feel like I get to train, so I'm excited to train. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, well, with the rest of you, how have you been handling the uncertainty of gyms not being around, or even meets not being around, and not knowing when you're going to compete soon?
Do you want to go first, Steve?
Yeah, like I mean, so I've been powerlifting since 2016. So that's 4 years. I still managed to, even though I'm a junior, I still managed to spend 2.5 years of that 4 years not competing. So this doesn't really bother me. Like, I probably would have taken longer than this anyway.
You did phrase this as just an injury for most people.
Yeah, like
essentially.
Yeah, but it's probably one of the things that it's probably one of the things that confuses me about powerlifters and powerlifting culture is like, for so many people, unless you're getting ready for a comp and you're a few months out from a comp, you're not powerlifting. And so many people think that after a comp they've quit when they've just went into a building block, or they're just after a comp, or people think they've taken a step back. You haven't. You're just nobody, unless they sort of have to, unless there's a necessity of doing comps, goes comp to comp to comp to comp to comp. It's a very rare example of a person who does that, because that's like probably not the best way to make progress. You do a comp, you take time to get stronger, you go and do another comp.
It's a little bit more common for like absolute beginners. Like I think at the start we all competed a lot more frequently. I know you did like 9 comps your first year, Steve. Like
Yeah, I forget about that. You see,
every weekend you did a fucking comp.
Yeah, I signed up for 2 comps after my first PT session in City Gym. But yeah, because I was told I'd get on the sponsorship team if I had done a comp, so I signed up for 2.
Right.
But to hedge my bets. But like, yeah, but even like early on, I sort of dealt with quite a lot of injuries, probably because I did 9 comps with shit technique in my first year, which is also just a lesson to heed for everyone. Learn how to fucking squat before you go and max out once a month. But like this period of time isn't I suppose it isn't necessarily unless you want it to be, it isn't necessarily a break. This is just a building block. This is just a period of time before you get ready for your next comp. The only thing is you don't know when your next comp is. But if you're a powerlifter and if you ever intend on competing again, you're still active, so what you're doing is getting ready for your next comp, whether you like it or not. So if you're doing no work, you're just not doing a very good job of getting ready for it. If you're doing the most work you can and you're treating people's probably have to change their perspective of what optimal is, because that's a really it's a really shit word in my opinion. People tend to think of optimal as what you could do in the best hypothetical situation possible as optimal. If all the chips were down and everything was perfect, that's what optimal is. That's not what it is. It's the best you can do in real life in your current situation. And if you do the most you can with that right now, this is just a building block.
You're more viewing it like a spectrum rather than okay, you're not competing you're competing. Do you know what I mean?
No, there's so many places in between. So I suppose for me it's probably not that much of a hit that way, because I've dealt with that before. I've dealt with long off periods, and I suppose probably for a lot of people, if you tend to judge yourself, as powerlifters, we tend to judge ourselves by what we do on the platform, or by our last performance or our next performance, or that's where we tend to put value on ourselves. But if you're in the process of getting stronger right now, that's the best you can do, and nobody else gives a shit what you did on a platform. They really, really, really don't. So it doesn't really add any value to your person, the length of time between your competitions, because all of that's forgotten about so quickly. So if all you do is try and get stronger, that's the best you can do in this current situation. So it hasn't, in a nutshell, it hasn't been bothering me too much. The only thing I look at is sort of the wasted time that I could probably have through that mindset, on the flip side through casualness. Because if you just I think if you just view it as it's not a big deal at all, I sort of tend to at times, you can become very casual. So there probably has to be a sense of urgency as well, which is what comps are useful for. They keep us honest, they keep us accountable, because that's sort of entirely process driven perspective, because even though you'd consider yourself process driven, if you didn't have goals at the end of it, that process would be long and winding and would have no it would have no real direction. You'd just be training for the fun of it. So comps tend to give you that pivotal anchor in which you use to it gives you a direction to go, but rather than having a definitive one, if you break down a competition to what it is, it's a max squat, a max bench, a max deadlift. I suppose right now just trying to do the best things that we can to improve our max squat, max bench, max deadlift whenever the opportunity to hit them comes around, So that's where I am at. But yeah, how have you been adjusting to it, Jack? Because it's probably different for you in that, actually, Alex as well, you're good at this, you little prick, but you've been you've had quite a lot of high level competitions over the last year, and for you, I suppose for Alex it's been a fucking, nobody else has seen it because you're 20 now and people think that's really young, but God, you've had a slog to get to where you did last year. You've been at this a while. But for Jack, you it was a really quick sort of rise to where you were. Obviously there was years of training before that, but you started powerlifting in October 2018, and you had 2 international comps done within the next basically calendar year. So how have you been finding the like adjusting on the other side of that back to where we are?
Yeah, I definitely would echo an awful lot of what you guys just said. My initial response would have been pretty similar to yours, Stephen. It definitely is proven a huge challenge for all of us, and obviously none of us could have prepared for it, and it's not one that we've ever seen before, and so who knows how long it will go on for. So we don't know if we've seen the hardest of it yet. And like us all, we've all probably like wallowed in our self-pity for a while, and that's fine. I think that's probably a healthy step of getting over things. But you just have to take it for what it is. What's the point of getting upset about it? Like, there's literally nothing we can do. Like, there's people in way worse situations than us. Powerlifting is a luxury, and we choose to do it. Our merits in life, when we die, and if there is a heaven and we meet Saint Peter at the gate of heaven, he's like, watch your Wilks, and if it's under 500 then you just can't go in. Oh fuck, can't go, straight to hell. That's not true. Life exceeds powerlifting. You've got friends, you've got family. Hopefully you friends. If you don't, just no one cares. But just do what you can. I change goals. I definitely do look at it as a huge building period. You just do whatever you can, and you just do that as best as possible. Don't sweat the small stuff. Granted, we all mightn't get to compete for a while, but just look at the positives. Take this time to just work on yourself. I'm taking this time to work on myself hugely as a person and my outlooks on things. I had a lot of great highlights from last year. My 2 caps, or whatever you want to call them, they were great, and I really enjoyed them, and I can't wait to come back home and compete again. Because I have a lot of goals. I have goals that I told you, Stephen, a few months ago, of in my career, I want to squat 400, I want to bench over 250, and I want to pull 1,000 pounds, and I want to do that in the IPF, and I think I can do it, and I feel like I will. That's just a fact. God, it's a fact, but granted, that's going to be longer away than I thought it would be. But if I don't do it till I'm 35, I don't care. I've got nothing but time. It just is what it is. There's an awful lot of people in an awful lot worse situations than us. I'm just really looking forward to going back training when I do get to go back training. I definitely won't take it as grant. I won't take it as granted as I did before, because when all of us got to train in City Gym together, in the place where we used to train with all our bars and plates and in a great environment, not an awful lot of people have that, and I miss that so much, and I can't wait to come back. But just take it for what it is. Don't sweat the small stuff, and just do what you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Just viewing that and the reality of it, whatever goals you wanted to hit, most situations now are a small bit further away. As you're saying, but that's fine. All we have is time, really, and powerlifting is one of those anomalies as sports where you don't there's no barriers of entry to this, essentially, except for a gym membership. In other sports, if it's a team sport, you have to be good enough to get picked. So there is a talent determinant and an age determinant. As you get older, you're probably just going to get worse. Whereas with powerlifting, people tend to peak in their mid-late 30s, in some cases later than that, and I think particularly as training methodologies improve, and we all get that, it gets a bit more time under its belt, that'll probably be more prolonged because our careers will be longer. So for most people, particularly for most people listening to this, I suppose, like, we're only really at the beginning of our careers, and we've probably been at this longer than most people who be listening, and we're still in the very infancy of what we're going to do. So there is nothing but time. So while it might feel like this is like sort of a midway point, or like sort of a stop in the middle of it, it's not really. This is still the bare beginnings of what we're going to do. So yeah, just adjusting our goals towards things that will help with our longevity right now will help. Whether that is picking things that will, and even if it comes down to picking things that will make you sort of happier with yourself, like say Jack, like you were saying, you've changed your goals towards gaining body weight and getting good at push-ups, chin-ups, those things are going to improve your enjoyment of training, which will enhance the training process.
It's seeing, like, because the way like, obviously my goals are still squat, bench, and deadlift,
Yeah,
but these are more like the acute short-term goals that I'm looking at, that I'm getting like the gratification of, like, seeing, like, oh, my body weight's gone up this week, sweet. Like, I've been able to do 2 more pull-ups, or because I've been doing a couple of different pull-up variations, so with different sets and reps, and like incorporating bands and stuff. So being able to like scale down the assistance and like being able to do more reps in one way or another, like all that, I've been counting as progress forward.
Yeah.
So these are all just very short-term, very acute goals that I'm getting good, decent amount of satisfaction from.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important, because I think, we tend to forget about that, that we started this because we enjoyed it and it made ourselves feel good. And, now is probably a time to really hammer home on that, the enjoyment of this, because the pressure that we normally put on ourselves, which can kill that, just isn't there anymore. And in the absence of that, that sort of the nothingness or the apathy that comes with not having that pressure to drive us, you probably have to go back towards having something else to drive ourselves, which will be the enjoyment of the process, because of our, like, any goals you want to hit are just going to be so far away right now. And as like Jack, you were saying, just about working on yourself, the time that we put into powerlifting probably isn't going to be as great right now, and the magnitude of what it does to us mentally isn't going to be there. So like it is probably a great time to work on things that we might have prioritized powerlifting over. In a lot of ways, this is like the things that will help with this period are probably going to be similar enough to what would help someone going through an injury, because like with an injury, you have, like, you basically have a reduction in the amount of powerlifting you're able to do. You have a reduction in, like, your timelines get pushed on, and typically it's like one of the first things you can do to make it easier is just like prioritize another hobby, because you're not going to get the same amount of fulfillment out of powerlifting right now, so picking up something else you enjoy and putting some time into that can help. And right now is probably a time to do that. Like, even for me, I've just been watching more TV, because I never fucking watch TV when the gym is open, because I'm either training or coaching or doing something. I'm just not bothered. But actually, like, catching up on some of the things I wanted to watch has been good. And then just doing other things like reading more and starting to try and play the guitar again have been fun, and it's probably just reduced the amount of sort of anxiety or negativity that I have in my head from the fact that training isn't going as well. And that can be, that can just be quite useful. Have any of you sort of found anything like that has been helping you in terms of like pursuits outside of powerlifting? It's just made things better.
Hobbies wise, like, is it?
Yeah.
It's similar to you, like, as in watching a bit of TV, which I haven't done in the longest time. It's one of those things I've had a Netflix account that I never use, so I've been using Netflix and Disney Plus a little bit, but getting back into like video games and podcasts have been pretty good the last while. Just playing games, some of my favorite games I haven't played in a long while. That's pretty nice to be able to put away like an hour or two into any of those and listen to. Oftentimes I'll listen to a podcast at the same time, because most of the games, they've no audio, or like I know them so well that I don't need to listen to them. But it is nice to do that while listening to some feeling somewhat productive listening to a podcast, even if the podcast isn't informative. It's like, there's loads of podcasts comes in all different shapes and sizes. You can get like informative ones and just like silly and stupid ones. Like I'm partial to both. And that's what I've been basically doing. Who wants it next?
I'll take it. Yeah, I'm doing I guess similar things to the 2E as well. I bought a guitar there like a week ago, and
Face
I've
melting.
what?
Your face melting.
Melting?
Hit this face melting solo.
Yeah. So yeah, I just bought a guitar because it's like I have a pretty big interest in music, and it's just something that I always wanted to try. And obviously with all this newfound time we have, you may as well. I figured now would be the best time than ever to like try and learn a new skill. So I've been pouring time into that. I also bought a PlayStation, so that's on the way. So I'll also be able to put some time into just playing some games, because like as much as like we have so much time, and like I feel like we should challenge ourselves and come out of this quarantine somewhat better, or like with something new, or whatever. But we should also make it enjoyable for ourselves, and like because like same thing, like I never used to watch TV back when we were working and training, just because we were always in the gym together and we were always just doing things. So like whether that's watching the like Tiger King on Netflix, George is playing Call of Duty, like it's just something to enjoy, I guess, for a while.
Yeah, just a side note away from this from this live stream. Tiger King is potentially the worst thing I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah,
it's fucking terrible, man.
Man, I watched like the first.
I'm not fully finished it yet.
Watching it, like I just couldn't finish it, like.
Yeah, like me and Katrina watch it together and some night. About 4 or 5 episodes in, I think. And now I will finish it because it's terrible, but I can still watch the episodes. But it's just so terrible. All around, the topic's terrible, the people are terrible.
They're all horribly unlikable. Like every character in it is a disgusting creature. Like, which is like, but it's funny because like the interviews in the show, because they interview them all afterwards, and like some guy, I'm not sure if he's involved with the actual documentary, but they had another guy basically FaceTime a load of the characters and like talk to them, and get their kind of input, like how they've reacted to seeing the documentary and everything like that, and how like, but they all seem like way more normal people than how the documentary is leading them on. Like that hillbilly guy, like his first husband with no teeth and all that kind of stuff, is like, why is he shirtless? Like, what is going on? Why are you trying to make him as much of a hillbilly as possible?
Yeah.
And like it hilariously, like it was actually his own decision to do that, but like, he looks entirely different now. He has normal, like I suppose that documentary money, like he has normal teeth now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just funny. Like it's like I hated it. Like I was like, Jesus Christ, these are hours I'll never get back.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, that's terrible. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest, really.
I'm glad you did.
But yeah, like that. No, that point you're sort of making at the end there is really good. Like it's probably one of the big takeaways you wanted out of this for people is like, while this is a good opportunity to, prioritize training and prioritize whatever else you have going on because we have so much time. It is just a very difficult period as well. So people are going to come out of this differently, and a large part of this is just going to be getting through it to an extent as well. So doing things that you find enjoyable is going to be important. Not everyone's going to come out of this fucking shredded, a future world champ after opening 2 businesses. It's just not going to happen. It is 100% not going to happen to me. I'm going to be looking at this under 110.
Like with the goal setting in mind, like when people are setting goals, like that is brilliant. Like it is a really good idea to have some kind of goals.
Yeah.
But just be aware that like some goals you might like the idea of, but mightn't actually give a shit about. Like not like believe it or not everyone actually gives a shit about being shredded. Like if
What?
yeah, what?
What?
Yeah, what?
What the
What?
fuck?
Yeah, no, like these are all like kind of
Find me that person, I will beat them.
yeah. These are all things that like we think of as like they'd be really nice to have, or like there's no real necessary downside to the outcome of it, but like if you don't care enough about it, you're not going to be willing to put the work in the first place, and then you're gonna basically fail at it, and then it's going to be really kind of like it'll be shit for you. Like it's just not it's not a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So
It'll
just
break
try
you.
and just try and think about it a bit as far as like what is actually important to you, and what do you actually like. If that's something you actually like doing at the same time, like fucking sweet, like that's. I think like if we all had equipment, that'd be great, because like we all like lifting weights, so that's a goal and a process we all like, So finding something similar to that is like even if it's a thing of, as you were saying, like getting better at fucking cooking or something, or like something you actually like, a hobby you actually kind of enjoy. Setting your goals around that is no harm as well. Like you'll just pair up your fun time with your goal setting, like
Yeah, and for basically any like teenagers watching this, or people who are going to be moving out of home in the next like few years, learning how to cook a few basic things right now will save you so much time, and it'll actually help your training so much if you're able to eat food when you move out of home for college. So
we're going to announce right now Steve's new cooking show.
Yeah.
Steve is going to teach you all how to cook.
Yeah, I was actually going to do one of those because it would have been hilarious until I realized my phone camera is like about that of a potato. So
Fair.
like it's about as good as a potato. So I was like, okay, not gonna do that. Yeah, no, that's just probably a thing for like young athletes. It's just actually learning how to cook one or two things right now would be useful. But lining up your goals with things that you actually want to do and will be achievable will be a very useful thing. You don't necessarily have to be driven by what you think you should do or what you feel obliged to do. If you identify as a powerlifter, you don't have to put every single thing like you have right now into powerlifting. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to do that just because your favorite influencer told you that. You have to achieve great things right now. And this is the opportunity of a lifetime. It's not. It's a pandemic. This is shit.
Yeah.
If you want to do something with it,
This is
definitely do. Discipline will definitely carry you further than motivation right now. You can be the most motivated person in the world right now. The wind will come out of your sails instantly as soon as you start to do things and you realize how monotonous they are. So discipline,
hugely.
Just good goal setting are going to be the big things. So setting goals that are realistic and achievable for you are going to be great because you're much more likely to achieve them. But and like one thing that will probably help most people is when you're picking goals, try and take motivation out of the picture. Like because if you go and read Dave Goggins' book and then you decide to set yourself goals, you're probably not going to get them.
Nope. Absolutely fucking not.
You're going to run an ultra marathon with this. Most people aren't running these 5Ks to get tagged in on Instagram. You're not doing ultra marathon.
Can we? Oh yeah, that's annoying me as well. Like,
man, I hate that bullshit.
Man, can you man.
I feel it's just one of those things now. Like, I don't know, will it like rub people the wrong way? But like, whenever I've donated money to a charity, I haven't posted it on social media for like some sort of gratification.
Exactly,
like, if you want to be a good person, do it. But like, don't you dare make me suck your dick and think you're this great guy, because I know you're not.
But like, imagine being so bored that you like put on a tracksuit, stand outside the front of your house and take a selfie and pretend you did a 5K. Like, you're like, lads, fuck me.
So now counterpoint to that is it does raise awearness. So there is that.
I get that. No, I get that. I really do. But like,
I get you.
Heroes. Like, they deserve everything.
What's the egg one for? Why are people drinking eggs?
I know, but Jesse Moore ended it there about 3 days ago, so it's fine. That was over. He ended that. Nobody's ever drinking an egg again. Because Jesse just ended the shit out of that one.
Like, does it have to be raw? Like, can you go make an omelet and then just say, "Oh, did it, lol." That's kind of like.
Pretty sure it has to be raw egg. No, it has to be 10. But
No, it has
yeah,
to be.
you know, um,
But just going back to what we're saying with the kind of goal-based stuff, and like if you're branching out into different hobbies, like yeah, like just think about what you'd actually like to do, and like there's YouTube channels like specific to hobbies for literally everything. Yeah, well, pretty much everything, like is in really useful stuff. Like just like branch out and like have a look around. You might find people like personalities in those hobbies that you really like, and it'll make it a lot easier for you. Like as in like all the stuff I've ever done with like photography and videography stuff, like I've never had a class or anything for any of those. That's purely just off of just watching a few YouTube channels and then trial and error from there. So like I highly recommend, like say just like I'm going to use an example just because we were talking about it, is like the cooking thing. Is like if you're half-arsed about learning how to cook, there's probably 100 YouTube channels that are just dedicated to cooking. So have a peruse around there. They're always a fun way to learn stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, that guidance will sort of help, and yeah, we do live in the internet age, it's all there. But yeah, like I suppose to wrap it up, that's probably going to be, you know, one of the biggest things is just like sort of with your hobbies and with whatever we do right now, it's sort of all for you. So whatever you do, like don't beat yourself up too much if you don't feel like you're achieving certain things that you need to, and we'll all sort of progress at our own different rates. So bearing that in mind when you're setting goals for this period of time. With powerlifting specifically in mind, like right now, like powerlifting will be there on the other side of this. You know, we don't know how long this will take, but there will be, you know, the other side, and it'll be there again. If essentially all you do is not quit right now, you're doing enough, because you'll be able to get back into the gym, you'll be able to train. And like, it sounds stupid, but like it's one of the places where I think we'll see dropout. And where you'll see a loss of progress is because, you know, some people will quit because they either, you know, won't be able to get back into the habit of training on the other side of this if it goes on for too long. Whereas, you know, there is probably going to be that guilt or that feeling of fuck it, you know, like I'm not bothered because I haven't been able to train for this period of time. But if you quit forever because you weren't able to train properly for 2 months or 3 months, you know, that is literally like, I forget the saying, what's it, fucking cutting off your arm to spite your hand, something like that. I can't remember it. I haven't had enough caffeine, but it's like that principle. It's not like, it's just, it's not going, it doesn't make sense. So if all you do is persevere through this, you're going to do enough. You know, most people aren't injured. If you're lucky enough to not be injured and just not be able to train, this is going to come back so quick on the other side of this. If you're injured and you don't train, your injury is probably going to be gone when you go back. Like, you know, if all you do is not quit, when things return to normal, there will be another time to make progress again.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I think like, yeah, and I think that's sort of the bones of what we wanted to go through, is it? Like that's sort of like as most things went through, unless there's any other points that you've forgotten that you want to bring up.
Yeah, I'll just say, I guess, one last thing, because I was thinking about like some sort of like strategies or just things that were going around in my head before we actually got on this call. So I just wrote them down. So I guess I'll just spit them out because I probably won't get the chance to say them again. But I guess just some strategies, I guess, to just think of, and like, you know, we've all touched on these like throughout the podcast. Well, not a podcast, but whatever the fuck this thing is.
Stephen showed it on. It's Jack and Stephen, obviously.
If that wasn't obvious. So yeah, like just acknowledge what is happening and embrace it. You know, like this sucks balls, but everyone is in the same boat. It is what it is. Just get over it. Like view this challenge as somewhat of an opportunity. Joe, like we're all looking at this as some sort of building block. You know, we've re-evaluated our goals and we're just going forward with those. Try new things. You know, I know we can't get out of the house, but like that, you know, if you want to like spark up a new like talent or skill or hobby, like cooking or, you know, doing something, you know, or like reading a book or listening to podcasts, by all means, please do. Like put this time to somewhat of a good use. Try to value the process rather than the result, because right now all we're in is the process. Like there's no sign of an end goal or a comp or anything for months,
Yeah.
or maybe like as far as a year. Try to cultivate some sense of a purpose in all of this. It's going to be incredibly hard. And so, like I myself at the start of this, like one of the things like I felt hugely was that I didn't feel like the person I was before all of this. That was the only way that I could describe it to myself. You know, I couldn't train. I wasn't doing anything I used to do. But you know, nobody is. And you know, like just trying to find yourself in all of this. I know that's very easily said than done, but Joe, you're gonna have to just control your attitude and effort. Those are the only two things we have. So do your best for that. And yeah, like just try and put some bit of a work in all of this period of time, because you know it would be a real shame to come out of this with nothing. But then the more I think about it, to come out of this the other side the same way you were when you went into it is also like a feat in itself, because
Yeah.
you know, like you were just saying, Steve, like if you wanted to powerlift after all of this, like that's still amazing to not have lose the interest. You know, like you know you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah. You're gonna go far if you make it through this. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, no, 100%.
But even anyone that comes back to the sport after this, I think will just have this appreciation of what a gym is. Like,
Yeah.
what a gym culture, and like just being able to fucking like squat a barbell instead of having to like grab a bag of sand or a fucking heavy rock. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's something
Yeah.
like that's a barbell is such a luxury. Like,
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like, yeah, I think that, no, those are some really, really great points. Like, to finish up on, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it has been a pleasure, guys. Does anyone else have anything you want to say before I end this live stream?
Yeah, like I think one of the things that I actually forgot to mention myself was like probably like right now as well. I just like, this is just from my own experience, but I've just I've noticed that I've like, compared to any other time before, because I know like especially with the four of us, and we were all working the past like just before this, like we'd spend like 10-11 hours inside the gym every day. So like I think one of the biggest things I've noticed is that I'm spending a lot more time like just on my own. Like I think everyone is really so a lot more time in my head, and I thought that was a really bad thing at the start, but I kind of just looked at it and started trying to do everything I could to take advantage of that, almost like just like trying to get to know myself a little bit better, if that makes any sense. It probably sounds like really cliche, but like genuinely that's just what I've been trying to do a lot more, spending a lot more time in my head in a good sense, and I've really found it helped anyway. So yeah, that's that really.
Good point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Take yourself on dates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, so I suppose that sort of wraps up this. So we shall end the live stream. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you three guys for coming on at my usual punctual timing.
yeah. So just a mild summary. Cause says tops off.
Class.
It's not a podcast. It's not a live stream.
Yeah.
Cause doesn't say tops
I
off.
knew something was missing.
Yeah. Now you can close the show out.
Yeah.
Someday, Cause.
Yeah. Someday we'll start the live stream topless.
Yeah.
That's for you.
That is going to be a closed link sent only to Cause. We will do it. Right, I'm going to hang this up. See you later.